Chief Dr. Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, PhD at the age of 70, for some of us who don't have the PhD yet. 80, sorry.
Please be seated. Review my book in 2014 and for, of course, inviting me here today and for trying to reduce my age. Because I got my PhD at the age of 80. I don't know. And you reduce it to the age of 70. When I came here this morning and I couldn't jump out of the car the way I used to jump out of the car, I said to Ambassador Igali, I said, it appears I'm growing old. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is simply a significant duty for me to be here in order to be able to fulfill my commitment to a sacred intergenerational responsibility. Between me and Tunji, sit down, because I don't want trouble with your weight. There is an entire generational span which significance can be properly understood in terms of the value that mentorship can add to the understanding of how the public service can serve as the backbone of the emergence of a developmental state in Nigeria. Tunji has been courageously forging ahead as an expert insider bureaucrat through the trenches of sustained administrative reforms of the Nigerian state since 1988, and most especially between 1999 and 2007, when the administration I led in my second incarnation was on the saddle. My deep insight about the operational logic of the bureaucracy derives first from my military background. And by the time I resumed as president in a democratic dispensation in 1999, I was already convinced from my rich experience in governance about the great benefits a focused government could derive from a capability-ready and professionalized civil service deployed to the imperatives of democratic governance. And so it became axiomatic for me that once I could get the reform of the public service right, the job of achieving good governance was already half done. It was therefore easy for me to set the task of achieving a deep-seated systemic change and reorientation in place by first allowing the civil service to jumpstart its own self-introspection on how the public service reform strategy could be crafted. One of the first things, and I think some of you who are here will remember, one of the first things that I did was to organize a week-long seminar for senior civil servants within the first week of my coming into office. It was unusual and to some civil servants also unwelcome. For me, we must all be reform conscious and sensitive for the government I wanted to lead. Professor Adebayo Adedeji of the Economic Commission for Africa, ECA, prepared the program and led the seminar. And I was present for most of the program. After 1 week, the senior civil servants will come back to say that, I quote, "We are now in a new way of doing business." And we were then all geared to move ahead, full steam ahead. It was in the heat of this whole process that Professors Adebayo Adedeji and Akin Mabogunje brought to my knowledge the presence of a young and knowledgeable expert bureaucrat in the Federal Ministry of Education with a portfolio of experience and research understanding of public service reform and policy professionalism, which could add immense value to our reform program. And this was the beginning of my relationship with Professor Tunji Olaokpa. Starting with the deployment of his expertise, which made a world of difference in the reform program of my administration, especially in the formulation of the national strategy for public service reform, as the chairman referred to. And it is not surprising that he went on to reach the zenith of his professional career as a permanent secretary. I was following his career even when I was out of office. Unfortunately, it is still very difficult, despite the numerous efforts put into rehabilitating the public service, to get the system into a capability readiness that will transform it into a world-class institution that backstop the effort of an incoming administration. And this is where Professor Olaokpa's intellectual memoir, The Ending Quest for Reform, not only takes the discourse on documenting professional experience to a new level, but also furnishes an entire generation of civil and public servants with a package of ideas, models, and paradigms by which to comprehend the reform framework of the Nigerian public service. My key takeaway from the memoir is the admixture